Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, a deadly tourist helicopter crash with Americans among the victims. Devastating images of the scene coming in. The helicopter went down during a tour over Kenya in a remote, hard-to-reach area. All 7 people on board killed, including at least 5 Americans. A Telemundo executive among the victims. Victor Kendo has the latest.
I'm Stephanie Ramos. We're learning new details about the investigation into the shocking death of Hayden Panettiere, why police were at the family home of her boyfriend, and the animal rights ad she filmed just 2 weeks before she died.
Newly released videos of the medevac jet that crashed into a busy Philadelphia neighborhood that killed 8 people, including 2 on the ground. President Trump is promoting his many renovation projects, from the $400 million White House ballroom, a new driveway, and the new helipad for Marine One. On what would be Nolan Wells' 19th birthday, we talked to his parents about their search for answers in his death. Another primary election night in the books, and it could be sending early signals about what to expect during the November midterms. Inside the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy, as jurors hear from a psychologist on her mental state months before her children were killed.
Intrusive thoughts are unrelenting. They don't stop. They were getting worse, and they were telling her to kill herself.
Artificial intelligence is growing, but are Americans ready for it? A new study that shows where adults stand when it comes to the rapid expansion of AI's abilities.
I'm Sam Champion. We're tracking severe storms and extreme heat tonight, where the flash flood watches are and where those hotter temperatures are. We've got it all.
And a potentially major step forward in cancer treatment, the experimental vaccine that shows promise for high-risk melanoma patients.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with the devastating tourist helicopter crash in Kenya. All 7 people on board were killed when a safari helicopter went down in a remote part of northern Kenya. The U.S. State Department confirms that 5 Americans were among them. The helicopter was on a wildlife tour when it crashed near a mountain. Kenya's Red Cross said that its search and recovery efforts were impeded by difficult terrain and a fire at the crash site. Helicopter crashes have happened with increasing regularity in Kenya, which is a vibrant tourism industry. The cause of today's crash is still being investigated, and tonight we're learning more about the victims. ABC's Victor Kendo leads us off.
Tonight, 7 people are dead, including 5 Americans, after a safari helicopter crashed and burst into flames in Kenya. Authorities confirming these horrific videos, smoke pouring out of the burning wreckage, pieces of the helicopter strewn on the rocky mountainside. Officials say the helicopter crashed shortly before 9:15 this morning in the rugged foothills of the iconic Mount Ololokwe in northern Kenya, a popular tourist destination.
We have pictures that show that these helicopters in the past had landed on top of this mountain right on the edge of a cliff. So what may have happened just as the helicopter was coming in to land, perhaps impacting the side of the cliff and falling to the ground.
Police telling ABC News respected Telemundo executive Jose Suarez was among those 5 Americans killed. Also among the dead, well-known Miami businessman Roger Duarte, once featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, survived by 2 children and his wife, whose family owns the famous Versailles restaurant in Miami. Ecuadorian officials confirming the nation's intelligence chief, Michel Sensi Contugi, and his wife, Stephanie Holohan, were also killed. Lindsay, the cause of the crash is under investigation. This news shaking the Miami community. Roger Duarte's family saying, in part, everyone on board was close, and the magnitude of this tragedy is impossible to comprehend, and there are no words to express the depth of our pain. We're thinking about their families tonight. Lindsay?
We sure are, Victor. Thank you. Today was day 16 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. Jurors heard more testimony from a psychologist speaking to Clancy's mental state in the months leading up to when she allegedly killed her 3 children. Arena Roy has the latest.
For a second day, psychologist Paul Zeisel walking jurors through the downward spiral he says Lindsay Clancy suffered in the months and days before the deaths of her children. Zeisel first met with Clancy 11 days after the killings and then about 60 times since then. Zeisel says Clancy had intrusive thoughts from a combination of bipolar disorder and postpartum psychosis.
Intrusive thoughts are unrelenting. They don't stop. They were getting worse, and they were telling her to kill herself.
Zeisel telling jurors that by January 24, 2023, the day of the killings and her attempted suicide, she could no longer determine right from wrong. He also described the call Clancy made from the hospital to her husband nearly 2 weeks later.
She had said that she heard a male voice ordering her, telling her that she didn't have any choice, but she had to kill her children and then kill herself.
Prosecutors have tried to cast doubt on that claim, arguing she acted intentionally and should be sent to prison. The defense also claiming Clancy received improper care from various medical professionals who prescribed her more than a dozen different psychiatric drugs in the months before the killings.
She wasn't getting what she wanted or what she needed from one provider, so then she went to another, really making a very confusing picture.
Clancy's mother and mother-in-law took the stand in her defense earlier this week, both testifying that they were concerned about the side effects from her medication. Her mother saying it was destroying her mind. Lindsay?
Our thanks to Rena Roy for that. And for more legal analysis on what we saw in court today, let's bring in attorney Bernarda Villalona. So the day started with a psychologist who saw Lindsay Clancy, but prosecutors pointed out that Clancy never expressed to a therapist that she had been hearing voices. What kind of impact do you think that this could have on the jury on the insanity defense?
So in terms of what the prosecution has been doing with all of the defense experts is, and not even just the defense experts, but also their own witnesses in terms of the nurses and the doctors, is emphasizing that at no point did Lindsay Clancy tell them that she was suffering some kind of suicidal ideations or any homicidal ideations or a decision to want to harm her kids. And that's really important because the whole crux of the defense is that she was suffering a psychosis at the time when she decided to take the life of those 3 kids. I mean, ultimately, Lindsay, what's going to happen is that it's going to come down to credibility, because now that the prosecution and the defense have put up medical testimony, it's all going to fall down to this jury trying to decide which side they believe the most in terms of finding credible as to medical testimony.
So tell us about this woman who had made a viral post about the trial on
Yes.
TikTok. The defense was trying to bring her in. The judge denied that request. What kind of information was she offering?
So this TikToker, it so happens that she was watching the trial, just like so many hundreds and thousands of people that are watching this trial. And when the prosecution was putting forth that this hospital, I believe is McLean Hospital, is pristine and one of the top hospitals in Massachusetts, this person, this TikToker was like, no, stop. I worked there for 8 years and it's nothing what the prosecution is trying to put forth. The TikToker, the defense attorney, found out about her and ultimately had his investigators try to locate her and have her be a witness in front of this jury to tell this jury, like, look, this hospital that the prosecution is trying to say gave the best care to to my client is actually not what the prosecution is telling the truth about. And the judge precluded that testimony on a few reasons, but most importantly is that the time that Lindsay was there, the TikToker wasn't working there.
What does this say about the attention, the immense, as you said, so many people really, for good reason, taking an interest in this case, but the fact that a TikTok sleuths are being called into court as potential witnesses?
Absolutely. You can see that media attention, how important media attention is, because media attention can bring out witnesses that you wouldn't normally know about as a criminal defense attorney or even as a prosecutor, because it works on both ways. But this case has I mean, literally, I have people that have never spoken to me about a criminal case before,
now
even know that I've been doing this for over 20 years. All of a sudden was like, can you tell me about the mob in Boston?
Right. All right, so let's turn quickly to the Tupac murder trial. Give us a sense of how difficult it's going to be. A lot of this, we're seeing gang culture emerge, and we know the whole idea of snitches get stitches, and how difficult you think it's going to be for the attorneys here to really get information.
So we've been seeing it throughout this trial. I mean, it's only day 3. So from the very first day opening statements to the very first civilian witness, the female that testified, that's where we get the first line in the evidence as to snitches get stitches. So the prosecution gave insight from the very beginning about how people do not want to cooperate. And it's not just because it's criminal gang activity. Just in normal life, people don't want to get involved because you can't secure my safety that if I come forward, nothing is going to happen to me. But I think it makes it easier when you have the criminal gang element to it for a prosecutor to argue to the jury, like, look, this is a culture where they definitely don't talk in terms of what happened or give people up, except it just didn't apply to Keefe D. Davis because he gave it all up doing his profit statement and in his book. But I think,
though he now says that he was
no, that was just money. That was just money. But today, at least the first witness that they have on the stand now is going to ultimately put in over 5 hours of an interview doing a proffer statement.
Bernarda Villalona, we thank you so much. You can watch Burden of Proof right here on ABC News Live every day at 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You can also watch it on demand on Disney+, Hulu, or wherever you listen to podcasts by searching Burden of Proof. Now to the latest in the investigation in the death of Hayden Panettiere. We just learned that the Drug Enforcement Administration is joining the investigation. Today, police responded to a home belonging to her ex-boyfriend's family for a welfare check. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more.
Tonight, as police investigate the sudden death of actress Hayden Panettiere, officers spotted leaving a home belonging to the family of her long-term boyfriend, Brian Hickerson. Police in Greenville, South Carolina, saying they responded to a call for a welfare check. Brian and his brother were with the actress at the time of her death and called 911.
Cardiac arrest. CPR is in progress.
The police found no signs of foul play or suspicious circumstances, and it could take weeks to determine the cause and manner of death. Hickerson was convicted of domestic violence against Panettiere, who chronicled a cycle of abuse in her recent memoir, saying she self-medicated to get through it.
In order to be around that kind of behavior, it took me dulling my senses and numbing myself with substances in order to silence that rational voice in my head.
Hickerson himself describing some of the abuse in a recent interview with TMZ.
I said, Hayden, I said, I'll give you 10 seconds to run as fast as you can before I throw it at you.
Lindsay, we have reached out to Brian Hickerson and his brother, but we have not heard back. Lindsay.
Stephanie, thank you. New videos were released from a deadly medevac jet crash in a busy Philadelphia neighborhood last year. The crash killed 8 people, including an 11-year-old patient and 2 people on the ground. The plane went down less than a minute after takeoff. Here's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, newly released videos capturing the terrifying final seconds of a medevac jet that crashed into a busy Philadelphia neighborhood, killing 8 people, including an 11-year-old patient and her mother. Doorbell camera video showing the Learjet from that horrific crash last year plunging out of the sky, slamming into the ground, exploding in a fireball, and damaging nearby homes. Investigators say the jet was only in the air for less than a minute after taking off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, climbing to 1,600 feet before veering into a lethal dive at 275 miles per hour. All 6 people on board that jet bound for Mexico, along with 2 people on the ground, killed. Investigators finding the jet's damaged cockpit voice recorder, saying it hadn't been functioning for years.
And Lindsay, the NTSB stresses the official cause of this crash still unknown tonight. The NTSB final report could take up to 2 years to complete, Lindsay.
Morgan, thank you. Now to the urgent manhunt underway in Worcester, Massachusetts, outside Boston. Police say they are searching for a, quote, dangerous fugitive, a therapist wanted for the murder of her husband, a 31-year police veteran. Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky.
Tonight, an urgent search outside Boston for this woman, Karen Solomon, a therapist who advocated for police officers, now suspected in the death of her officer husband. Kurt Solomon was a patrolman with the Worcester Police Department 31 years before his fellow officers found him dead Tuesday morning after responding to a 911 call from the couple's home.
Is the caller a male or a female?
It was a female. Her voicemail on her phone says it's Karen Solomon.
Now investigators are racing to determine what happened inside that house.
There are other people involved in the house as well, but right now the Worcester Police Department is actively working to find Karen Solomon.
Police released this video of Solomon when she was last seen walking in pajama shorts, tank top, and flip-flops. Police said she's considered armed and dangerous. Investigators were seen at the couple's ranch-style home and handing out flyers with her picture. Karen Solomon appeared on TV as a founder of First Help, a suicide prevention program for police officers. And tonight, Lindsay, sources tell ABC News investigators are working to determine whether there had been prior instances of domestic violence in the relationship. Lindsay?
Aaron, thank you. Now to Washington. Amid stalled talks in the war with Iran, today President Trump focused publicly on promoting his many renovation projects, from the $400 million White House ballroom to a new driveway and a new helipad under construction for Marine One, his name inscribed on the granite. Here's our Jonathan Carl.
With the war in Iran soon to enter its 7th month, and concerns about the conditions for U.S. troops on Navy ships, and a new poll showing his approval rating at just 33%, a record low, President Trump today summoned reporters to check out his new White House helipad.
Nice job, fellas.
The president placing gold coins on the granite.
And these will go like that.
And signing a slab engraved with his name.
It looks pretty good.
He says the helipad will be more than just a place for his helicopter to land.
They can have people go there for cocktails and then walk to the ballroom.
And so it went for nearly 40 minutes. The president showing off White House renovations, which the Washington Post reports will cost more than $900 million. Unclear how much of that coming from taxpayers.
This is going to look incredible from the air and from every place.
He brushed off questions about whether peace talks with Iran will resume.
Maybe at some point, but right now, I think the situation is so good.
John joins us now. Staying on foreign policy, the president today talked about restarting talks with North Korea. What did we learn on that front?
Well, what he said is that he would meet with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator, by the end of the year. Now, there's no indication as to when exactly that would happen or where it would happen. There's been no confirmation about any of this from the North Koreans. The officials I spoke to today said that there has been some communication between the White House and with Kim Jong-un or with the North Koreans. Unclear exactly what that was, if it are more letters like we saw in the first Trump administration. But they say there has been some back and forth. But I've got to tell you, Lindsay, at this point, it sounds to me to be very tentative. The president clearly wants to meet with Kim Jong-un. Unclear exactly what the agenda would be. Kim Jong-un's nuclear arsenal, North Korea's nuclear arsenal, is now much greater than it was at the time of those two previous summits that he had in his first term.
John Carl from the White House for us. Thanks so much, John. Voters are sending some early signals about the November midterm elections, and some big matchups are coming into sharper focus. In Alaska, Democrat Mary Peltola and Republican Senator Dan Sullivan are moving on to the general election after advancing Tuesday in the top 4 primary. In Florida, primary voters weighed in on key congressional contests, including the closely watched race in District 20. For more on what the results tell us about the political landscape, let's bring in our political reporter, Mr. Jay O'Brien. So, Jay, what stands out to you most from last night's primary results?
Yeah, Lindsay. So I think starting in Florida, really, there was kind of that ongoing Democratic civil war on full display there. You saw Angie Nixon, for example, beat Alex Vindman in the Senate primary there. Angie Nixon is a Democratic socialist. She joined the Democratic Socialist Party midway through this campaign, and she beat Alexander Vindman, who was backed by establishment Democrats, who was a key witness, remember, in President Trump's first impeachment. He had outraised Angie Nixon, but it wasn't a clean indicator about the future for the party, because in the governor's race, you had David Jolly win, and he's considered a moderate, and that was a statewide ballot, just as Angie Nixon's was. And then you had in key congressional districts, Jared Moskowitz and Debbie Wasserman Schultz beat back far-left challengers in their primaries. And so it wasn't a clear indicator that the future of the Democratic Party is most assuredly in the hands of the progressives, but Angie Nixon did have a big win overnight.
So what do these results tell us about where both parties stand heading into November?
It's really unclear exactly what the future of both parties is going to look like. You see that ongoing Democratic civil war. You see it on full display in Florida. But at the end of the day, it's ultimately going to come down to what this means on the general election ballot. It does give us somewhat of an indicator of it really depends on the strength of your campaign, the one that you run. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be guaranteed a win because you are a progressive, but obviously there is this growing far left movement within the Democratic Party. We should say here, though, while we talk about these Florida results, this is a race that's going to be an uphill battle for Democrats. The incumbent Republican senator there, Ashley Moody, who filled the vacancy created by Marco Rubio when he became Secretary of State, she is very likely to win that race at the end of the day in November.
Yeah, President Trump appears to be in the midst of a significant losing streak in Republican primaries, and we know he's campaigning Friday with Darlene Graham. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Darlene Graham can pull this off. By our count, President Trump's endorsements have failed now 8 times in the last few weeks and months based on races that we're tracking. But overall, he has a very strong track record of endorsing Republican candidates who ultimately win. And the president is publicly very proud of that track record and publicly frustrated when candidates he endorses do not win, like Corey Mills, for example, in Florida. But Darlene Graham's going to be a big test of that because the president has really hugged her. He encouraged her to run. She's the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. He's going to campaign with her later this week. And we've seen her have some stumblings in the campaign trail, on the campaign trail. For instance, she had a debate last night in which she, a sitting senator, and she's only been a senator for a short period of time, but a sitting senator said that she is not that familiar with national security matters. She's the sister, remember, of Lindsey Graham, whose entire Senate career was largely about national security. So she's got a lot to overcome as a candidate here, and it will be a pretty big test for the president's endorsement.
Jay O'Brien for us. Thanks so much, Jay. Severe storms and extreme heat are stretching from California to the East Coast. There are flash flood threats across the Midwest. Heavy rain will move east tomorrow from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia into New York City. And tonight, more than 70 million are under heat alerts. Let's get right to Sam Champion, who is tracking it all. Mother Nature keeping you busy, Sam.
It is very busy on the map, Lindsay. Let's get right to it. So the storms that will be on the East Coast are actually right now already throwing out heavy rain and the possibility of severe storms with them as well in the heartland. I would break this down into 2 areas, really, where that severe thunderstorm watch is and where the flash flooding is, because that's very heavy flooding rain in those storms. That goes from Illinois all the way into Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So if you look right there in Indianapolis, this is particularly concerning there because they had more than a foot of rain and really devastating flooding there just days ago. Put these storms in motion, and that line of severe storms moves towards Paducah, Kentucky by about 9 o'clock. And then there it goes to the East Coast. And it's Washington, D.C., Philly, and New York just in time for the drive time home on Thursday. This could be up to 3 inches of rain an hour, and we do believe there will be some flooding involved in this, so we really need attention there. And we cannot forget the heat that's been going on into the Deep South, because it continues at least another day. We're talking Texas all the way to Florida. And Lindsay, these heat index levels are triple digits. That means 100 and likely up to 111 again.
And no relief in sight. All right, Sam Champion for us. Thanks so much, Sam. Moderna shares have more than doubled after the company announced that its mRNA cancer treatment passed a key test. Moderna and Merck are creating a treatment using an mRNA-cased cancer called intismeran. The vaccine can be tailored to patients based on unique mutations within their tumors. A current study shows that patients can live longer without their cancer returning or spreading if they take intismeran with a drug called Keytruda, an immunotherapy drug made by Merck. The study compared the results of using both drugs on melanoma patients as opposed to just using Keytruda. A stunning move for Harry and Meghan. ABC News has confirmed that they will leave California and move back to the UK. Let's bring in ABC's Trevor All for the latest. Trevor, what are you hearing?
Well, Lindsay, Harry and Meghan have been in the States for 6 years, and we have now confirmed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will be moving back to the UK with their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet. And while Buckingham Palace has no official comment on this, we have heard from a source familiar with the situation who says King Charles learned of these plans on Sunday, and he welcomes the opportunity to see the family more frequently. But we have also learned that there's going to be no change in the official status of Harry and Meghan as non-working royals. They're going to stick to that agreement that they made when they left the UK 6 years ago, Lindsay.
And we know that there were also questions before in the past about the government providing security for Harry and Meghan. Where does that stand?
Yeah, it's still a big question, maybe even bigger now, Lindsay, if they're planning to move back. So, of course, all of the attention that Harry and Meghan were receiving was a big reason why they left their positions to begin with. Harry's been very vocal about the fact that he feels whenever they're in the UK, they need police protection. But under the current agreement, they only get police protection on a case-by-case basis. And when the family visited the UK earlier this summer, they came without police protection. That is going to be a big question now moving forward, whether that agreement is going to change if they're going to live there permanently. And certainly the palace is going to be, and the police are going to be asked that come tomorrow morning in the UK, Lindsay.
All right, Trevor Alt for us. Thanks so much, Trevor. Coming up, we're joined by the family of Nolan Wells on what would have been his 19th birthday. Their message about how they're honoring their son as they still fight for answers. Plus, an incredible feat of strength caught on camera. See the moment a group of people lift a car off of a crash victim. And new research shows that young adults are increasingly worried about AI and its impact on the job market. The new numbers show how opinions are changing in tonight's By the Numbers. Nolan Wells' family marked what would have been the teen's 19th birthday today with a National Day of Prayer. The Mississippi teen went missing after going out on a boat trip with friends on the 4th of July. His body was recovered 2 days later, and his cause of death remains unknown. Joining us now are Nolan's parents, Christine Wells Wansley and Elmore Wansley. They're joined by family attorney Ben Crump. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Christine, give us a sense of what the hardest part of today is.
Not having him here, not being able to FaceTime him and sing my horrible happy birthday song. Just him not being here with us.
Elmore, how are you remembering your son on this day? Not so much for how he died, because we still don't know that, but for how he lived.
Just the joy that he brought to our family. Just watching old videos and just reading old messages. Just memories of conversations, of wrestling matches, me chasing them around the house, stuff like that. That really helps with the entire situation, thinking about the good times.
Why was it important for you all to do these vigils and honor Nolan in this way on his birthday?
To make sure that his story stays alive, for people to understand too that it's okay to want to ask questions, want to make sure that you know the truth of what happened, but most importantly, just keeping his legacy alive.
Any idea how Nolan would have celebrated his 19th birthday?
He would have been at school, so yes. Of course we would not have been able to see him until the weekend. So I'm sure he would have gone to football practice, had class, and probably been like, "Hey Ma, hey Dad, send me some money so I can go get some actual food."
Yes.
Ben, want to bring you in here. So where do things stand now in the investigation?
Well, right now we're still seeking answers. I know we're trying to work collaboratively with the District Attorney's Office. Obviously, the Congressional Black Caucus has asked for the FBI to open an investigation. But, we're celebrating Nolan's birthday, what would have been his 19th birthday. Over a month has passed since his tragic death, and still we don't have the answers to what happened to Nolan Wells.
You've criticized the local authorities' handling of the case, emphasizing the need for transparency. The Jackson County District Attorney released a statement yesterday following public criticism of the DA's office and an investigation of the case, saying in part, public commentary does not make the speaker transparent, just like exercising restraint consistent with the law does not make the process corrupt. The fact that something is said does not necessarily mean it's actually true. What's your response to that?
Well, we've never criticized the district attorney's office. We obviously share with Nolan's parents and his family the question, will we get a full, fair, and transparent investigation in the death of Nolan Wells. Obviously, people are concerned all across America. Can we get a full, fair, transparent investigation? Isn't that what everybody would want if this was their child? To know that their child life is going to be treated as important as any other person's life. And that's what we're fighting for.
Ben, you've mentioned the importance of federal resources. Have you received that?
We haven't gotten an answer to that yet.
Christine and Elmore, what has the community response been like?
So far, it's been very positive. We are so grateful for our community. A lot of people are, showing us a lot of love, especially when we're out in public. So for those of you who are standing behind us, beside us, in support of us, I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Do the police regularly give you updates?
Well, we've been working. I'll say that. We've been engaging with the district attorney's office. And I will say this, Lindsay, that we are still on his birthday asking for the public to continue to share with us photographs, videos, and any kind of things they witnessed out there. We are still trying to get to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We want to know what happened to Nolan Wells. Wouldn't that be a great birthday present if people came forward and said, I'm going to tell what I saw? Because we always have said from day one, somebody knows something. Somebody saw something.
And Christine and Elmore, have you heard from any of the young men who your son was out with that day?
We won't get into that.
Okay, understood. Okay, last question. How would you like for people to remember Nolan?
As a big ball of sunshine.
Yeah. Very fun. He's a very fun person.
That just
full of laughter.
Wanted everyone to feel loved, feel included, and most importantly, a peacemaker. He was not someone who got behind, bullying, those types of behaviors. That wasn't Nolan. That's not how we raised him to be.
Ben Crump, Christine, and Elmore Wansley, we thank you so much for the time, and know that our condolences continue to go out to you all in what has to be a especially difficult day in a hard season.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, AI anxiety. We'll take a closer look at the growing concerns by the numbers and what's fueling the fear. Plus, Rio's reunion. A dog discovered more than 1,000 miles from home. Find out what led to a safe return. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. The State Department says 5 Americans died in a helicopter crash in Kenya. 7 people in total were on board, and there are no survivors. A luxury travel and tour agency called And Beyond confirmed a helicopter carrying its guests went down, expressing deepest sympathies to those affected. The cause of the crash is under investigation. At least 2 students were killed and several others were injured in a crash involving a car and members of a cycling team in northern Tennessee. The victims were all students at Milligan University on a training ride. At least 1 person was airlifted from the scene. The driver is facing multiple charges, including vehicular homicide by recklessness. President Donald Trump has nominated a top White House aide to lead the FDA. Dr. Heidi Overton is a medical doctor and deputy director of the White House Domestic Policy Council. She's worked on several health initiatives in Trump's second term. Overton will still need confirmation by the Senate. An Oklahoma woman is reunited with her dog after he was found more than 1,000 miles away in North Carolina. Melissa Burris says her dog went missing from their home near Tulsa, but 2 weeks later, she received a call from a shelter in Greensboro. A Good Samaritan found the dog and brought him there. Staff scanned his microchip and tracked down Burris, who flew to North Carolina to get him. And still ahead, a large brawl breaks out between spectators at a baseball game. What happened after security broke it up? Plus, we're in the midst of an AI boom, but how are people feeling about it? We take a look at the differing opinions by the numbers. Welcome back, everyone. Artificial intelligence is everywhere and quickly becoming part of American lives every day. But how are most people feeling about that? We're taking a look at the AI issue by the numbers. 52%, that's a share of Americans who now say they're more concerned than excited about artificial intelligence becoming a bigger part of daily life. That's up sharply from 37% just 5 years ago. And while AI continues to transform everything from education to healthcare to the workplace, only 9% of adults say that they're more excited than concerned. Another 37% said that they feel both excitement and concern. Among younger Americans, the shift is especially striking. For the first time, a majority of adults under the age of 30, 55% now say that they're more concerned than excited about AI. That's up from 39% just 2 years ago. Then there's the impact on jobs. 71% of Americans believe AI will mean fewer jobs over the next 2 years. That's up from 64% in 2024. The bottom line here, Americans continue to use AI more often, but the latest numbers suggest growing concern about where the technology is heading and what it could mean for the future of the workforce. For more on this, we welcome Madison Mills, senior AI reporter for Axios. Thanks so much for joining us, Madison. What stands out to me is that for the first time, a majority of adults under 30 say that they're more concerned than excited about AI. Why do you think that younger Americans who've grown up with technology are becoming more skeptical?
You know, I think this is one of those technologies where there has really never been that much excitement about it, especially from young people. I mean, we remember when social media was coming out and there was so much excitement about it, about this opportunity to get to connect with your friends and have better conversation with them. With ChatGPT, for example, yes, there was that moment in 2022 where people started to use it and share personal information with it, and it felt really cool. But since then, we have seen survey after survey proving and showing us young people being very loud and clear that they are not happy with the existence of these models for a wide variety of reasons. You've got privacy concerns, worries about the impact to their own economies, the data center build out, and then subsequent pushback, all of that coming together at once to lead to a lot of concern from young people about AI technology specifically.
And let's talk specifically about the concern about the potential for job loss in the next couple of years. Is that fear justified?
I think it's especially justified for young people because that's really the only area of the economy where we can see proof that AI is starting to impact their job prospects. We continue to see report after report of younger people's employment being challenged right now. I talk to CEOs all the time who tell me that they are pausing hiring for entry-level workers, and that's, of course, creating a challenging environment for these folks who, again, feel like they did all the right things. They went to college, they studied coding or engineering, and then all of a sudden they're graduating and feeling like all that work they put in is for a promise that they're not going to get to see the fruits of going forward. And so a lot of concern for those young people on AI impacting entry-level employment, but more broadly, we're really not seeing AI negatively impacting employment across the labor market as a whole. It really does seem specific to young people at this point in time.
And looking ahead, what do you think that policymakers, educators, and technology companies should be doing right now to try to build public trust?
I think the biggest thing is that somebody needs to come up with a pitch about why young people shouldn't hate this technology. It feels like that has missed their desks lately with AI executives and policymakers. We're waiting for clarity from Washington as well. The White House has this executive order AI framework that they have chosen to keep private. They're not revealing that framework publicly. So that also leaving voters in the dark about what AI regulation is going to look like. And frankly, that's part of why we're also seeing states stepping in with things like data center bans. That's obviously not one that AI companies would want. So if those companies want less of those statewide data center bans to be happening, maybe they need to be more clear with young people and encourage the government to be more clear with voters in general about what their regulatory path is going to look like.
Madison Mills, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Cessna plane that made a daring emergency landing in Ohio, and our conversation with stand-up comedian Kelsey Cook about her new special, Happy Hour. New video shows LAPD officers and civilians making a dramatic car crash rescue. A Cessna makes a daring emergency landing in Ohio, and a Tennessee aquarium has the latest addition to its summer penguin baby boom. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. Newly released body cam footage shows LAPD officers and civilians lifting up a car to help rescue a person who was pinned underneath after a car accident July 21st. The victim is expected to recover. Police praise the teamwork, writing, "Together we can move mountains and cars." A large brawl broke out in the stands between Cubs and White Sox fans at Wrigley Field in Chicago during the 8th inning of the crosstown game Monday. Video shows fans from both teams throwing fists during the heated moment. Several fans were escorted out of the ballpark. So far, no one has been arrested or charged. A daring emergency landing in Ohio after the front landing gear of a Cessna failed to deploy. The crew circled for an hour but was unable to fix the problem. The pilot then attempted to land the plane with no nose gear, bringing the plane down on the runway. No one was hurt, but the plane did suffer damage to its nose and underside. Former Wimbledon finalist Nick Kyrgios revealed that he tested positive for cocaine and was provisionally suspended from tennis. Kyrgios posted details of the case on social media, saying, "I recently failed a drug test in Mallorca after testing positive for cocaine, citing a lower-level tournament in June. I made a huge mistake and take full responsibility for it." Kyrgios has not appealed the provisional suspension. Cocaine is banned as a doping substance during competitions, with lower sanctions possible when used away from events. Kyrgios got a wild card to play doubles at Wimbledon last month and lost in the first round. A NASA spacecraft circling the moon is providing the sharpest views yet of the crater carved by a crashing SpaceX rocket. The space agency released before and after photos of the impact area on Tuesday. The Falcon rocket's upper stage plowed into the moon at 5,400 miles per hour on August 5th. After drifting through space for more than a year, the fresh crater appears to be 60 feet across and less than 10 feet deep, according to scientists. Penguins at the Tennessee Aquarium are getting in on the summertime baby boom. The newest Gen 2 penguin chick hatched July 17th to parents Blue and Flower. This is their second offspring after the birth of their first, Carla, in 2022, and comes weeks after fellow penguins Nipper and Pebbles welcomed their new offspring at the zoo in late June. Thanks to the intervention from the aquarium after an early struggle, the latest newborn was able to feed and rapidly gain weight and can now feed on its own. Fans can follow along with the chick's progress through the Tennessee Aquarium Penguins Rock live stream. Stand-up comedian, podcast host, and online sensation Kelsey Cook is no stranger to brutally honest storytelling. Now she's out with her new candid and clever Netflix stand-up special, Happy Hour, where she covers everything from anxiety to breakdowns over dating to the pursuit of drinking by old people. Let's take a look.
I don't understand how, old people are still drinking hard. You know they're not hydrating, right? I feel like my grandma's like, I haven't had water since I was a little girl. Okay?
All right, Kajachi sat down with Kelsey to discuss bringing a good laugh to both longtime and new fans.
Joining us now is the ever hilarious Kelsey Cook. What's going on? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. Now, I want to talk about your upbringing a little bit because I love this. You're the daughter of an international yo-yo champion and a professional foosball player.
Yes.
How did your upbringing influence everything you got going on here?
I mean, it's not like I was going to have parents like that and become a dental hygienist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's basically a family of clowns. It's weird hobbies. So yeah, my dad is also a foosball champion and international yo-yo man and slam poetry champion.
I love this.
I know. I always tell people he has the sex appeal of a fanny pack. He's just, it's a miracle I was conceived. Thank God my mom was into that so that I could be here today. But yeah, they met playing in a professional foosball tournament. So wow. I literally would not exist if it weren't for foosball.
Hey, give it up for foosball.
Thank you. I know. I mean, I love it.
Also give it up for your first Netflix special, okay? Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does that feel?
Oh my, it really feels so good. This is my 17th year doing stand-up, and it's just one of those things that it's like a sparkly thing on your vision board where you're like, man, that would be so cool to have happen someday. And I've been submitting to them for, probably 10 years now. And it just feels so good to have it happen.
Wow. Now, in this special, you talk about a whole bunch of topics, such like mental health, but you do it in a way that is so relatable to everyone. So how do you manage to balance that relatability, yet still be so vulnerable?
Oh, thanks. Again, that was a lot of trial and error, especially, so my mom has dementia, unfortunately, and so that's a topic that I've started to talk about on stage in the last few years, and that was something that took a while to figure out, like, how do I get into something that is so heartbreaking but bring some light to it so that I can not only feel less alone, but other people who are going through this can feel less alone. That's that balance of, like, okay, how do we talk about these things without bringing the show to like a grinding halt, but also not have people feel like so bad for you that they check out of the comedy portion. You know, it's a lot of moving things.
Well, you move well.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes. Now, you're currently on your Reasonable Bedtime tour. What has it been like? First of all, I love the name.
Thank you. We're in our late 30s.
Yeah, listen, get to bed early, okay?
Yes.
What's that been like, bringing this new content to your audience all over the place?
It feels so good. It does feel like the older I get, the more I look out in my crowd, and I do feel like we're feeling the same way, where before we named it the Reasonable Bedtime Tour, some of the late shows would start at like 10 p.m. and it was harder to get people out. And I also was like, I don't want to be working at 10 p.m. Like, I'm exhausted. And so we actually contacted the venues this year, and we were like, this is what we're naming it. We're wondering if we could move some of those show times a little bit earlier, and people have loved it. It's like, people love a 6 p.m. show. People want to go out, have fun, and then like get home and like have a melatonin gummy and check out. You know, like, my crowds aren't huge partiers. They like want to get good sleep, I feel like.
Kelsey, this is a pleasure. Let's do this again soon.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Happy Hour is now streaming on Netflix.
Don't take that melatonin gummy just yet. Our thanks to Ika Jachi and Kelsey Cook for that conversation. That is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.